Welcome to Fantasy and Frames Mental Health Awareness Series. I'm your host, Zach at FF Super Batman. Fantasy and Frames fully supports mental health awareness. This series will come out every Monday morning through the summer on our YouTube channel. Subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any episodes. We will discuss a specific topic in each episode. If you have any questions, please leave a comment on the video or feel free to DM me if you want to keep it private. I could not think of a better person to talk about mental health with than an expert, my wife, Megan. So this week, we are discussing communication through conflict. Always, we are going to start from the basics and build from there. So Megan, what is conflict?
Conflict is an opposition or incompatibility of opinions, wishes, or needs. Conflict can range from a minor disagreement to a major argument. Each relationship reacts differently to conflict. The more emotionally reactive a relationship is during conflict, the more toxic the relationship tends to be overall.
All right, so what are the most common types of conflicts that you see as a mental health counselor that you believe will relate most to our viewers?
We could be here for hours listing different types of conflict. So I want to focus on a few things that are the most problematic in relationships. Leading relationship counseling researchers have identified 4 major themes that highly predict the end of a relationship, as well as proven techniques to overcome them.
Well, that sounds like some very valuable information. Let's not keep everyone waiting. What is the first theme that predicts the end of a relationship?
The first theme is criticism. This theme does not refer to offering a critique or voicing a complaint. It's an attack on their character, ultimately dismantling them as a whole. For instance, a complaint involves voicing an emotion of disappointment when an agreement was not honored, but criticism is accusing the other of intentionally going against an agreement and then calling them selfish and inconsiderate, since they never think of anyone but themselves. The theme of criticism is most problematic when it is pervasive and paves the way for another theme to enter into the relationship.
Okay, that makes sense that attacking someone's character is not a good way to handle conflict and probably leads to even more conflict. What is the next theme?
The second theme is contempt. This theme refers to the type of communication involving disrespect, sarcastic mocking, ridicule, name calling, and mimicking or using any negative body language. Contempt is worse than criticism since you are being truly mean and taking a position of moral superiority over them. Contempt is the single greatest predictor of a relationship dissolving. Further research has even proven that these long, simmering negative thoughts can weaken the immune system and make you more likely to suffer from an infectious illness.
Wow. So not only is it toxic for your relationship, but it is toxic for your body too. What is the third theme?
The third theme is defensiveness. This theme refers to the moments we feel unjustly accused and fish for excuses to play the innocent victim so they'll back off. Defensiveness is typically a reaction to criticism that is almost never successful, since we are basically stating we don't take their concerns seriously and we will not take any accountability for our mistakes. We have all experienced defensiveness at some point in our lives, just some more than others.
I agree that everyone has dealt with someone playing the victim. It might even be more common the past several years with the boom of social media. What is the last theme?
The fourth and final theme is stonewalling. This theme refers to the listener withdrawing from the interaction, shutting down, and no longer responding to the other. They don't want to confront the issues, so they make evasive maneuvers such as tuning out, turning away, acting busy, or engaging in obsessive or distracting behaviors. Stonewalling is typically a reaction to contempt. By the time the other themes appear in relationship, it's easy to become overwhelmed and stonewall as an easy out, but that becomes a very bad habit. Once you get to this point, you cannot have a rational conversation, so it's okay to ask the other person for a 20-minute break to self-soothe.
I know I struggle with this the most because talking about my emotions does not come naturally for me. Even with therapy, I have to focus on making sure I express my emotions instead of just bottling them up. The same went for someone talking about their emotions to me. My first instinct was to withdraw from the conversation because I didn't want to be in a situation where I would have to acknowledge my emotions too. Obviously, this was not a healthy way to communicate through conflict, which is why I continue to make sure I focus on expressing my emotions more. Now that we have gone through the 4 most common themes of conflict that predict relationship failure, how do we avoid falling into these toxic cycles or ending them now before it is too late?
You have to approach conflict with gentle communication. Instead of saying you, which places blame on the other person, it's important to share feelings and needs using I statements. You also want to avoid speaking with global attributions or absolutes. It is very rare that someone always or never does something. So, speaking in those absolutes increases the likelihood of them becoming defensive and ending all productive conversation.
Transitioning to I statements can be an adjustment for those new to the concept. What tips do you have for making conversation more effective with I statements?
I have a formula I teach my clients to simplify the process. I will admit it's a bit awkward and unnatural, and some of my clients hate me for making them do it, but it does help them learn how to communicate the essential parts so they can eventually incorporate everything into a more natural conversation.
Well, the point of therapy is to get out of your comfort zone a little bit, so let's get into it.
Exactly. To start off, you will need to have a feelings wheel in front of you. If you Google feelings wheel, then plenty of options will show up for you to reference. I talked about how to use the feelings wheel in episode 7, so I'm not going to be reviewing that process again today. Once you've identified the feeling you're actually experiencing, you need to say, I feel, insert feeling here. So give me any feeling for us to use as an example.
All right, let's go with a common feeling. So, for so many people, annoyed.
Okay, annoyed it is. Telling me I feel annoyed is much better than saying you make me feel annoyed, which we talked about will lead the listener to getting defensive. But saying I feel annoyed gives me no context and leaves the listener with too much room for interpretation. The listener will guess based off their most recent words or actions, or even the pattern of interactions between the two of you, which could result in misunderstandings and misinterpretations. You need to explain the specific words or actions that triggered that feeling within you. So you would say, I feel blank when, insert words or actions here. So give me some context for why we may feel annoyed today.
All right, so you didn't call me on your way home from work today.
Okay. So telling me I feel annoyed when you didn't call me on your way home from work today is getting better, but it's still not telling me why those specific words or actions were triggering, thus still leaving some room for interpretation. Human error can lead me to assume wrong again and then not understand why that emotional reaction was triggering within you. If I don't understand your reaction, I'm not going to be able to empathize with you or understand where I may be able to make changes or compromises. So, using your example, I will have to guess if you are annoyed that I didn't call you because you were planning a time sensitive surprise, or you worried about me getting home safely, or you thought I forgot about you, or you thought I was mad at you and didn't want to talk to you, or even you feared I was out having an affair. Hopefully, I'm able to guess right with the context, but it would be more effective conversation if you provide all of that information from the beginning. You need to explain why those specific words or actions triggered that feeling within you. So you would say, I feel blank when blank because, and then you enter that trigger explanation here. So give me an example for why you may feel annoyed that I didn't call you on the way home from work today that I didn't already consider.
All right, you said some good ones, but what comes to mind is we haven't been talking as often on your way home from work, and I wanted to seem like more of a priority to you.
Okay. So telling me I feel annoyed when you didn't call me on your way home from work today, since you haven't been talking to me as much and I wanted to be a priority to you. Gives me all the information I need in a gentle way without leaving me any room for interpretation or misinterpretation. Then the listener is hopefully able to validate your feelings, even if they don't understand or agree with it. The conversation can then progress into the listener sharing their I feel statements. Once the feelings have been fully communicated between both parties and validated, you can transition into sharing your needs, such as, I need you to call me on your way home from work tomorrow, or every day, or whatever will help you meet that unmet need. Over time, the conversations will become more natural and you will be able to deviate from the formula as long as you keep the three components of feeling, action or words, and trigger reasoning a part of that interaction.
Well, that was awesome. Thank you, Megan, for sharing so much valuable information about communication through conflict. And these were all talking about relationships for any type of relationship within your life. There's going to be conflict if you don't communicate correctly. So hopefully we kind of talked about some different things to avoid and then gave you some solutions as a better way to communicate through that conflict. So thank you all for joining us today. We hope you were able to get some great information that will help you or someone else that you know. We will be back next Monday at 9 a.m. for episode 12 to discuss domestic violence and gaslighting. Again, the best way to watch this series is to subscribe to the Fantasy and Frames YouTube channel. And if you are struggling or having suicidal thoughts, then immediately call or text 988. That is the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline and is available 24/7. Thank you all, and we'll see you next week.